بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Welcome brothers and sisters to another lecture on life coaching. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of you and your families. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your Ramadan. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make all of us leave this Ramadan with our sins forgiven, with our deeds accepted, and with Jannah be written for all of us. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. As I always like to start, if um, if you're watching this and you've been watching it, please do share as we kick off, inshallah ta'ala. So this way, more people can benefit and more people can join us, inshallah ta'ala. Also, um, if you are, uh, if you have been watching us, please do grab a pen and paper. A lot of what we're going to talk about today, inshallah, as we're used to on these series, is certain things that it's good for us to write. So please, if you are able to grab a pen and paper, you can use your phone as well. Please do bring something to write with. Now, last time we were together, we talked about self-esteem, right? We talked about how a person is able to control their confidence in themselves, the value that they see themselves in, and a lot of it, when we were talking about low self-esteem, and some of us who are struggling, this is could be young and old, a lot of it has to do with a lot of negative self-talk, right? This conversation that we have internally with ourselves. This is something that impacts our emotions, impacts our mental state, impacts our view of ourselves. So today, inshallah ta'ala, what I wanted to talk about is how do you start creating a positive thinking? How do you become more optimistic, right? What are some of the things that we know from a psychology perspective that allows me to be a little bit more positive in life, right? Whether I'm positive about myself, positive about the things that happen around me, positive about the people that I'm dealing with. You know, a lot of times when we look at certain circumstances, we look at the negative part of it. We look at the problem. We look at the issues with it, and that can change, right? We can look at things a little bit more positively. And before I start, we have to, I do this. I try to do this every halaqah we're together. Is go back to An-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to go back to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and try to reflect. Was the Prophet a positive person? Did he create optimism among the companions? And absolutely yes. He was somebody who always uplift the morale of the companions in the most difficult of situations. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, it's been narrated that he would remind the companions about Jannah very often. Right? He will talk about Jannah very often to elevate the moral, to elevate the confidence, to create a positive environment for the companions. There's actually an incident where the Prophet ﷺ, during the Battle of Al-Khandaq. Now, a little bit of background of the Battle of Al-Khandaq. The Battle of Al-Khandaq was a time where many of the Arabian tribes gathered, and you can say ganged up against the Prophet ﷺ, right? And they were going to attack them in Medina. And at that time, Salman al-Farisi, the very famous story, he brings the Prophet ﷺ an idea that they should create a trench, right, or a ditch, or the Khandaq, right around one side of Medina to protect anybody from attacking Medina, and the other sides were already protected either by mountains or by some allies from a different tribes. So the Prophet ﷺ commands the companions for all of them to start building that trench, and the Prophet ﷺ was with them. Now I want you to think about the state of the companions that they are in. Right? They are about to get attacked in their hometown, in Medina, right? By not just one tribe, by, it's also called the Ghazw al-Ahzab, the Battle of Al-Ahzab, because everybody in Arabia was ganging against them, right? You're talking about thousands. And the Muslim was very little. Maybe our army at the time, maybe it was 1,000 people or so. And they're about to get attacked by 3,000 or 4,000. And if they were to lose that battle, a lot of people will die. because it's in the hometown, right? Imagine somebody attacking a capital of a country, right? It's a problem. So obviously the morale of the companions is pretty low, right? And this whole trench idea is very new to the Arabs. Salman al-Farisi was from Persia, and this was one of his ideas. Now the Prophet ﷺ is sitting there with the companions, they're building the trench, and one of the companions had a problem with a big rock. There was a big rock standing on the way as they were trying to build that trench. That big rock was, they couldn't break. So they brought the Prophet ﷺ forth. They called to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, we're struggling here. We need you to help us. So the Prophet ﷺ, and watch, and this is the moral of the story, and how the Prophet ﷺ was able to raise the morale and uplift the spirit of the companions in one of the most difficult battles that they went through. Right? Some of the historians say that this lasted for over a month, where the people of the enemies, the Qurayshis, and a lot of the other Arabs were camped outside of Medina for close to 30 days. Right? The Prophet ﷺ goes forward to that rock and he hits it one time, right? And when he hits it, a spark happens, right? And a little bit of it breaks. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Futihat Rum, right? We conquered a Rum. Now a Rum, the Byzantines Empire, was such a huge empire, right? The Muslims cannot even imagine going against them. They're just trying to struggle, they're struggling today to deal with just somebody attacking them in their hometown. And here the Prophet ﷺ telling them, we will conquer the Romans. And then he hits again, says, Futihat Faris, right? We will conquer Persia. These are massive empires, right? These are huge. And then he said the last time, he said, Futihat al-Yemen. Yemen has been conquered. Again, another great empire. You have to think about, why did the Prophet say any of this? Because the Prophet ﷺ is raising the morale. He's switching everything. Well, everybody thinks they're about to be attacked and the Quraysh is going to destroy them and there'll be no Islam anymore, and they're afraid for their families, because right just behind that trench are their families, their kids and their women. So the companions are worried. But here the Prophet ﷺ comes and he sends this very positive energy to the entire army. That if you guys worried about this, man, a time will come when we're going to be conquering Persia and Roman and Yemen. Look ahead. This will be over. It's going to get better for all of us. And this was the attitude of the Prophet ﷺ. He would always bring the morale. Companions will go to them and complain about the torture when they were still in Mecca, right? And he will remind them of Jannah, right? He will remind them that it's going to get better, right? He will remind them that Islam will approach such the East and the West that a woman would walk for days without being afraid for anybody to harm her, because there is peace and there is, Islam spread in the lands. And the Prophet ﷺ was extremely, extremely positive individual, right? He always looked at the bright side. He always knew how to change his own thinking to be positive and everybody around him. And this is extremely important for us to understand. Now, let's get into some of the points. There's obviously a lot, and I encourage everybody, inshallah ta'ala, to look into positive thinking. It's a phrase. Just read about it. Read about positive thinking. What is positive thinking? Right? How are you able to switch your negative thoughts to a positive? What are some of the things you can do? And these are some really practical things we're about to go over with you, inshallah, that are very practical things. And they might seem like, does this really work? Yes, it does. Right? This is actually based on a lot of psychological studies that experts did, and they kind of summarizing it in few points. Right? One of the things that are kind of like the foundation, which we talked about the first time, is being aware of your self-talk. You have to be able to figure out, do I negatively self-talk to myself? And the reality is, brothers and sisters, many of us do, right? And alhamdulillah, you might be healthy mentally and you have a good family, you have a good job, and your life, alhamdulillah, is going great for you. All you need to do is just spend a week and watch your self-talk. Do you have a lot of negative talk? And this is kind of the foundation. Now, the second thing, or actually, this let's say this is the first thing, right? The what I mentioned earlier was just kind of the foundation from last time. The first thing, in order for somebody to increase their positive thinking, is strengthening your memory of positive information. Some experts, they actually tell us is, how many positive words do you know, right? in your regular dialogue, right? What words do you use more? And when you're able to be a little bit conscious of of your regular conversations, even when you're talking to somebody, right? You'll be able to switch it. And for example, do you use the word problem a lot? Right? Oh man, there's a problem here. You know, do you use the word, man, there's an issue. Man, I'm worried about this. Right? I'm concerned about that. A lot of these are negative talks, right? I don't like this. I don't like that. A lot of these are negative talks, right? Negative terms, negative words. Now, what they're saying is strengthening your positive information, strengthening start using positive words. There's actually a book, um, funnily, subhanAllah, there's a book called Positively, um, train your brain to make positive memories, right? Positively train your brain to make positive memories. It's like $10 on Amazon. You can Google it, and look it up. But essentially, they tell you memorize more positive words, like the word opportunity. Opportunity is positive, right? The word change. Change is a very positive word, right? The word, it will be better if this happens. It's a very positive word. Again, you're saying the same thing. So instead of saying, man, I hate this wall, right? Or I hate this outfit. Oh man, I hate this quarantine, right? You can say the wall will be better if it's green. Oh, never mind. You shouldn't be painting your wall green anyway. But let's say a wall would be better if it had a frame, right? This outfit will be better if I iron it, right? You're saying the same exact thing, but you're using positive words, right? So essentially, what experts of psychology and psychologists tell us is that when you start training yourself to have more positive vocabulary in your conversations, you're going to start thinking positive. You're going to find yourself talking about positive things. If you find yourself criticizing all the time, right? Instead of criticizing, find areas to improve. SubhanAllah, I'm going to share something a little bit personal here for a second, but a lot of times in community work, right? When you're working with a community, whether it's in a masjid or at MSA or whatever organization you're part of, a lot of times when you're talking to different members, they're very easy to pinpoint the problems. A lot of them's like, man, we have an issue here. Oh, we don't have enough followers on Facebook. Oh, our YouTube, channel is very inactive. This or that. Most people, and again, they do it so naturally without even thinking there's a problem. They're so easy pinpointing the problem. Very few people, right? And we have to be one of them because that's how we excel in life. They come with a solution. They come and say, if we do this, things will be better, because that is positive thinking. They're not coming to you with a problem. They're coming to you with a solution. It's the same thing that somebody else says. They recognize that there's a problem with not having activities for young children. But now, instead of them coming forward with just pinpointing the problem, they're actually coming with ideas because there's positive thinking. Wallahi, guys, positive thinking is extremely crucial, right? In relationships, some of the things they talk about in a relationship, a lot of times, for people who are young, who are newly married, or people who've been married for a very long time, we're very easy to pinpoint our mistakes to each other. You talk to your wife, you talk to your husband, oh, this is this. You do this all the time. You do that all the time. How do you make it positive? It'll be really nice if you don't do this. I would really appreciate it if you make this type of food. I would really appreciate it if you close the cabinet after you grab your tea. Whatever it may be, you guys get the point, right? There's positive conversations, right? So that's number one. Increase your positive vocab, right? Your positive words. That is going to start making you think positively. Number two is increase or recall positive memories. Recall positive memories, meaning a lot of times when we go through painful experiences in life, right? Like, for example, may Allah protect all of you and your families, you're dealing with a death in the family, right? Or maybe a family member who went through a really bad divorce. or maybe somebody lost their house because of finances, or maybe somebody lost their job, or whatever it may be, right? A lot of times these very painful moments are imprinted in our minds for a very long time. Part of us dealing with a negative self-talk and how do you become more positive and thinking a little bit positive about life is also recall the good moments. And for example, for those who are married, you should you should do this periodically. Go back to your wedding album pictures and scroll through them. Wallahi, wallahi, guys, I promise you, if you are married out there, or maybe it's your graduation, or maybe it's your last vacation, or maybe whatever it may be, go back and recall positive memories. And do this often to reflect that, man, alhamdulillah, like I had a lot of good moments in my life. Alhamdulillah, I graduated college or I graduated high school. Maybe pictures of your children when they start walking or videos, it reminds you that, alhamdulillah, I'm blessed. These memories are supposed to make us a little bit more positive. Now, we have to be careful. There's a very important point here. When we recall some of these memories, we're not recalling it to say that, man, I wish I can do this again, or I wish I can do that again. That is not the point, because sometimes it could actually backfire. That you look at the last vacation you had a year ago, you're like, man, my life sucks. I wish I can be on vacation again. No, recall the positive memories, recall the good feelings of that vacation or of that good, event or experience or whatever it may be, and remind yourself that I had a lot of positive feelings. When you do that, it actually brings forth positive feelings. And do this often, right? Do this often. Recall good moments in your life. Count your blessings. يعني when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا, and when you try to count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will not be able to numerate them. This is Allah indirectly telling us, go count your memory, your blessings. Look around and count the good things that you have in your life. Because when you recall these things very often, your brain will automatically start thinking positive. You realize there's a lot of good things in your life, right? There's a lot of accomplishments that you had. If you have 3 A's in your class and 1 B or 1 C or even 1 F, you have 3 A's. Don't focus on that F for so long that it consumes you. It consumes it. It creates, there's this negative aura around you. And that was one of the things that a lot of experts, they also advise us to do. Number 3, this is really interesting. So back in school, I think a lot of us can recall that experience. We For those who have ever taken a psychology class, there's a very famous Mavlov conditioning with the story of the dog when his caretaker would every time he feeds him, he would ring a bell. So like he would ring a bell and he will give him food, and the dog will eat. And it's natural that when a dog you see food, it sees food in front of it, it starts to salivate. So he would ring the bell, give him food, the dog will salivate. Ring the bell, give him food, the dog will salivate. And then at one point, he starts just ringing the bell, and the dog would still salivate, right? Because it conditioned itself to be able to what? To connect the bell, the ringing of the bell, to salivation. Even though there's no food, there's nothing to salivate to. And subhanAllah, may Allah bless all of you and honor all of you. When we talk about conditioning, maybe sometimes we have to condition ourselves with positive memories. So, the tip here is condition yourself to experience random moments of positivity, right? Go find the positive things to be part of. Maybe it's your friends. Maybe it's the stuff that you read. Guys, maybe it's the TV that we watch. Again, I don't know how many Arabs are listening to this, but man, if you ever watch Egyptian drama, and it's very sad. It's all very negative, right? Somebody's dying, somebody's getting killed, somebody cannot get married because things are, there's just so, again, it's called drama. Don't think that doesn't impact you. As an individual, if you're spending time in the front of TV and all that you watch is very dramatic, sad movies and TV shows, it's going to impact you. It's how you're going to find it very difficult to be positive about life. If all that you deal with are people's problems, and all that you experience are people problems, even the stuff you follow on social media, right? The idea here is experience moments of positivity. Watch happy stuff. If you're going to watch something, if you want to read stories of the Prophet ﷺ with his wives and how happy they were, and how they used to be so cheerful and so playful in the household. The Prophet ﷺ created such a beautiful environment in his house. He wanted his wives to experience moments of happiness a lot in the household, in the rooms. That doesn't mean we don't struggle. Understand, being negative and struggle are not the same. Okay, we can struggle, we can have struggles in life, but still be positive about it, right? Just again, the phrase goes, look at the bright, the half full cup, the half the full half cup or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? It helps our mentality. It helps our mental state, right? If we find ourselves also always just looking at very bad experiences, very negative experiences, and the stuff that we're exposed to all the time. And I'm bringing up TV because, again, we do watch TV a lot. A lot of us, young and old. What are you watching? Are you all just watching crime videos and crime movies where people are killing each other and all this stuff? Don't think video games, young guys. Allah subhanallah, true story. There was an incident in California. This was a few years ago, right? When games like Call of Duty and Resident Evil and some of these really gruesome video games became so famous, right? So it's again been a while. I mean, Call of Duty's been around for years, but a few years ago, a young kid, okay, who's 11 years old in California, okay, he shot both of his parents. There's a gun in the house. Okay, he spends a lot of time in front of video games. Okay, and one time he shot both of his parents. You know what's interesting? When they asked him, "Why did you do that?" He said, "I thought they will come back to life." And I'm like, man, he's 11. So obviously there's a lot of mental, problems, right, with what he did, but he was impacted so much by video games because characters in video games come back to life. And he thought if he does the same thing with his parents, they will come back to life, right? The reality again, and this might be a very very negative story. But what I'm trying to say is that there are some really serious impacts of the stuff that we expose ourselves to, and we have to be extremely extremely careful. And obviously the same thing goes with our children, with our household. Um, One of the very important things that creates a positive thinking is gratitude, الشكر, right? And again, يعني, subhanallah, man, I love Islam because it speaks to human nature and speaks to the good side of human nature. That it elevates who we are, it elevates our circumstance, elevates our health, our well-being, the mental, the psychological, the emotional, the physical well-being. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about shukr in so many places in the Quran, right? The Prophet ﷺ talks to us about shukr. One of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names is Shakur, the one who's thankful, the one who's grateful, right? The one who appreciates. Gratitude creates a very positive thinking. When we sit there and appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, appreciate our spouses. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man la yashkur nas la yashkur Allah." Whoever is not grateful to the people is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connects being grateful to Him to being grateful to everybody around you. When you are grateful, get used of saying thank you. Thank you is extremely positive. Saying thank you to somebody is very positive. right? And even if it's the smallest thing, and a lot of times we take very small things for granted, like the iftar that our moms make every single day. You know, a lot of times we say thank you when the food is really awesome, right? Or it's like your favorite meal, right? But you should be telling her every single day, every single meal, Mama, thank you. Thank you for this food. Thank you for giving us food. Thank your dad. Because isn't your dad is the one who's sustaining this entire household? No, and subhanAllah, I'll tell you this. I might be a little bit biased, but dads, man, dads are really, they're not appreciated enough. Because a lot of times we see our moms who are working around all the time, but our dads need to be appreciated too. Our dads are the ones who sustain our households, right? They go out to work for 10, 12 days, for 10, 12 hours of the day, right? And here we are, have to sit there and thank our moms all the time. Thank your dad. The roof above your head is because of your father, right? The clothes that you have is because of your father. I don't care you're in high school and you work, for 10 hours, $10 an hour. It doesn't matter. Your dad is the one who sustains you and continue to provide for you. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course. When we create an environment of gratitude, we automatically start positively think, right? Gratitude and positively thinking is extremely connected, right? Very, very important, right? And again, you even some of the really interesting points here is that it says you're even grateful to things, you're even grateful to things, yani when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his creation a lot in the Quran, is Allah alluding us having to appreciate the universe. We have to appreciate the sun, appreciate the moon, appreciate the air, appreciate the oxygen that we breathe, appreciate nature. We have to appreciate things, right? I only have a couple of minutes left, but I'll leave you with one last tip, right? One last tip, which I talked a little bit about it last time, is that do not minimize your successes. Amplify your successes, right? Take the moments of success in your life, even if they're small, right? And make them big. Not to be arrogant, right? Because arrogant is that you taking your success and making yourself feel that you're better than everybody else. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is recognizing that there are certain things in life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with and allowed me to achieve, and I need to remind myself of them, right? A lot of times we trivialize, we sell ourselves short all the time. And we sell ourselves short thinking that it is humility, right? It is not humility. That is not humility. Didn't Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, right? When Yusuf alayhi salam as the king of Egypt, right? It says, اجعلني على خزائن الأرض. Let me take care of the finances of this entire country. إني حفيظ عليم. Right? I will protect it. Right? I have knowledge. Right? Sulaiman alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Sulaiman alayhi salam, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَجَعَلْنِي مُلْكًا لا وَجَعَلْنِي مُلْكًا لا ينبغي لأحد من العالمين. Oh Allah, give me mulk, give me kingdom that nobody else has in this world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give it. Right? Sulaiman alayhi salam was very positive in his approach in life. Right? He didn't say, oh, let me just be humble. SubhanAllah, I meet brothers. Last thing, I promise. Last thing. I meet so many brothers, when you talk about Jannah, right? They were like, man, I just want to be in the corner. Just some corner in Jannah, I'll be happy. And this goes against the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. The prophetic advice and guidance from the Prophet ﷺ is what? إِذَا سَأَلْتُمْ فَاسْأَلُوا الْفِرْدَوْسِ فَإِنَّهَا أَعْلَى الْجَنَّةِ. Right? When you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Jannah, ask for al-Firdaus, for the highest one, because it's in the center of Jannah, right? It's the peak, it's the town of Jannah. This is Firdaus, right? And and the Prophet ﷺ wants you to be positive. So when we say, do not minimize your successes and do not belittle your successes, it's for you to recognize that there are certain things that you accomplished by the grace and the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that should make you positive about life, right? And leave away that negative talk. But again, there's a lot we can talk about when we talk about positive thinking. There's a bunch of books. There's a lot of articles. If you go to psychologynow.com, it's one of the really trustworthy websites, right? There's also goodwillbeing.com. There's a bunch of websites you guys can go to. Just Google positive thinking, right? And read more about it, inshallah ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create that positive life in our that positive thinking in our lives. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan. I apologize for taking a little bit longer than I anticipated. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.